This is draft season presented by Moody's, a proud sponsor of the New York Giants. I am John Schmelk. As always, Tony Pauline, my co-host, is with us, and we welcome in Ryan Wilson, friend of the program, who does a great job covering the draft for CBS. Ryan, good to talk to you, man. How are you?
Hey guys, good to see you again, John. Good to meet you, Tony. It's funny you call it draft season, John. I checked my calendar. It's November 11th. I guess if you're a Giants fan, given the way the week went, it's never too early to look ahead.
Well, luckily, we do the show all year round, Tony. So every season is technically draft season. You know how how that works around here. Absolutely right. So we're gonna have a part two of our risers and sliders, folks. Last week, if you didn't tune in, we did offense last week. Tony and I had that great conversation. We were joined by Chad Ryder from NFL.com to do that, and Ryan will join us and do that today on the defensive side of the ball. But let's start with a review of last week in college football. And Tony, you wanted to start with Indiana and Penn State. Probably a little bit closer than Kurt Signetti would have wanted, but they managed to pull it out with some late heroics by a wide receiver and a quarterback we've talked about a lot on this show.
First of all, it was a great game. I mean, if you watch that game, it wasn't even edge of your seat. I mean, I have no rooting interest in the last 2 minutes. I was up on my feet pacing. That's how good of a game it was. I mean, it was an old-fashioned game. Penn State went for broke, and you know that this was Penn State, with all the disappointment they've had this season, this was their bowl game. This was their national championship to try and knock Indiana from the perch of the unbeaten. And, you know, Fernando Mendoza, the stats weren't great. He didn't carry the team, but in my opinion, this was his most NFL type of performance. His offensive line was banged up. Penn State was sending some 5, sometimes 6 guys, or they put 6 guys on the line of scrimmage and then drop some guys off into coverage to disguise their blitzes. And he was getting beaten up because, like I said, the Indiana offensive line was struggling with injuries. But he stood in there and he made play after play after play. He was smart. Even that one interception, it wasn't really a bad throw, in my opinion. It was more of a better play by the Penn State defensive back. But again, I mean, especially that last drive, it looked like starting in the middle of the third quarter on, Penn State won the line of scrimmage. And it looked like Indiana was doomed. But Mendoza found a way to bring that Hoosier team back, scored the winning touchdown, didn't have Elijah Surratt, not his big play receiver, but his most dependable possession receiver. And what happens? Charlie Barker, guy unknown, comes in, has 7 career catches in college, caught 7 passes for 118 yards. I mean, it was – if Mendoza can keep this momentum going, he may justify the fact that if he enters the draft, he's going to be a top 5 pick. Because, again, in my opinion, this was his most NFL type of performance, even though the numbers weren't that great.
Ryan, what do you think of Mendoza, and what do you think about his performance?
I like Mendoza a lot, and I liked him this summer a lot, and I wanted to see what the transition looked like coming from Cal. And to Tony's point, a couple quarterbacks made some big-time throws, because a lot of times you can go through the course of a game and see some things that maybe give you pause, even though you still like the player. But Dante Moore made a big throw down the stretch to get that win at Oregon as well in some rainy conditions. And then Mendoza in that game that we're talking about at Penn State. Yeah, the Iowa game. Thank you. That throw at the end, shout out to Omar Cooper Jr. for making a play as well.
What a job getting his foot in. Oh, my goodness.
That is a big boy play. I saw it live, and I like to think that I'm pretty good at sort of eyeballing things live. I thought his other foot was out of bounds first. It wasn't. Omar Cooper Jr. knew what he was doing. And as Tony mentioned, no Elijah Surratt. So you don't have your number one go-to guy in possession situations. And the other thing, when you go back and look at guys like Will Levis, for example, and even Lenore Sillis this year, you have to sort of squint to see next level plays. There was no squinting involved in that last drive for Mendoza. It's like, okay, this guy can handle it. I knew he could handle playing behind a bad offensive line because that's what he did at Cal. And if you're going to get drafted top 5, you're probably going to go to a bad team. So thumbs up from me on his performance. I had little concerns going in. I had fewer concerns coming out. I will say this. I'm sort of interested in what you guys think. I was talking to a couple buddies about that. Mendoza's kind of a goofy kid. I don't know if we're in the process, in the stretch of history where a lot of people, 18 to 22, are goofy at this point. Maybe it doesn't matter. He doesn't come across as Joe Burrow, for example. He comes across more as, just a high school kid having a good time out there. I don't think that's even close to disqualifying, but I'm just putting it out there because he is more happy-go-lucky Labrador Retriever than he is, say, German Shepherd.
I mean, I think if he enters the draft, then I think that's a big if. We'll have to see what happens during those interviews because, if that comes across, if what you say comes across in those interviews, where teams want the guy to be the face of the franchise and carry the franchise, that could hurt him, especially if a guy like Ty Simpson enters a draft and he's different in those interviews. I think it'll be a wait and see sort of situation. I understand what you're saying, and you make a good point. You want your quarterback to basically be a CEO type, not a guy who's, playing hopscotch and having a good time out there.
Playing hopscotch, Tony. I like
it. I
it.
had to think of something on my feet quick. So.
No, that's very good. No, I think that's apropos. Tony, who else from this game kind of jumped out at you? I know you're still a big fan of Penn State defensive tackle, kind of three-tech Zane Durant.
Well, I don't know that I'm a big fan, but I think finally we saw a lot from some of the Penn State players in the game against the Hoosiers that we expected from week one. That we expect against Oregon. And I think Zane Durant, he's a one gap type of defensive tackle. He's a three technique type. He's a little bit limited. But he was relentless on Saturday. 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack. But he's constantly behind the line of scrimmage, shows the ability to change direction and get out in pursuit to make plays in space. I think what we saw from Durant, and I was never really high on him. I think he's more day 2 type of, or a second half day 2 type of player because of the fact that he's got size limitations. And he's really been limited this year like a lot of those other players. But he kind of broke out last Saturday, I should say, against Indiana. Like I said, it seemed to me like Penn State was going for broke. I mean, this was their bowl game. If they make a bowl game, it's going to be some secondary contest, which they may not even show up at. And I think they went for broke. And we saw things from Zane Durant that we expected to see from him since the beginning of September.
Ryan, your thoughts on Durant and anyone else from this game that jumped out at you?
Yeah, I haven't actually got a chance to watch Durant yet. I have him on my list, but one guy I do want to mention is Zachy Wheatley, the safety. They actually move him all over the place, number 6. He is a ton of fun. He's verified 6'2.5", and he plays that big. He is really good coming downhill against the run. He is good in space. He could play too high safety look if that's what you want him to do at the next level. He can play in the slot. He was in coverage on that Omar Cooper Jr. touchdown. Coverage couldn't have been any better. Sometimes, as Dick LeBeau used to say, sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you. The bear got him on that one, but through no fault of his own. He's played at a pretty high level this season. I've been impressed with him. He feels like a day 2 pick to me. We'll see as we get through the process, but he's been a bright spot on that defense. As Tony talked about, some guys have underachieved. You want to see a little bit more from A.J. Harris, play in and play out. I liked him over the summer, but Zachy Wheatley was a fun little watch and sort of a surprise because I didn't know what to expect when I flipped on the old tape there.
All right, let's jump to the SEC here, Tony. Texas A&M and Missouri, and you want to start with the pass rusher, but also a wide receiver as Texas A&M continues to kind of make their case for being not only the best team in the SEC, but maybe the best team in the country.
I mean, the big matchup here from an NFL prospect point of view, there were a couple of them, but as far as I was concerned, was Cassius Howell, the edge rusher from Texas A&M, versus Caden Green, the left tackle from Missouri, who seems to be everyone's favorite offensive lineman these days. And it wasn't even a competition. I mean, Cassius Howell just shows he's a terrific pass rusher. He's very athletic. He can stand up over tackle. He can rush the edge out of a 3-point stance. He moves around with explosiveness and speed and quickness, easily changes direction. I think watching this game, one thing is for certain. There's no way Caden Green is going to be a left tackle in the NFL. Most of us thought he's going to push inside the guard. I think this game affirmed the fact that, he is an interior offensive lineman, especially the way Howell and some of the other Texas A&M edge rushers were able to get around him. The one thing I don't like about Green, I'd be interested to see if Ryan thinks the same, if he's watching him, plays very tall. He's not a knee bender. Doesn't sink his rear end. Doesn't block with leverage. That kind of concerns me because he gets his pads are way too high when he blocks in pass protection. It shows decent footwork and mobility, but he was getting pounded around the edge by Howell. And then we talked about on the show for months now. There's no number 1 receiver. It's kind of open at the top. I don't think KC Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M, will be the top receiver in this draft, but he's slowly, just basically quietly having an explosive year. 4 receptions for 84 yards and 1 TD against Missouri, another big-time game. he shows himself to be really a game-breaking, home run hitting threat at both receiver and as a return specialist, which in a year where it's wide open at the position, if he enters the draft, I think at worst you're looking at a day 2 selection.
Yeah, I'm with you on Concepcion. I haven't watched Green yet, so I'm interested to do that. Cassius Howell, I like, and it feels like this edge rush class is pretty wide open as well. After get through maybe a couple of guys at the top, I don't know if I'm in love with him yet, but I checking my notes just to double check. I said he's 11 out of 10 in terms of the motor with which he plays. Like no one is going to play harder than Cassius Howell from play in to play out, and I think that'll get you a long way if you have the tools to sort of make it at the next level as an edge rusher. So I'll go back and watch more of him, but I did like him. I just wasn't in love with him quite yet. Casey Concepcion was pretty easy to love early on, and I remember watching him over the summer at NC State thinking, well, NC State could certainly use this guy, and he has made his way to Texas A&M. Reliable hands catcher, and a lot of times, to Tony's point, when you watch these wide receivers, they do 4 out of 5 things well, and sometimes the focus drops will get him or the contested catch drops will get him. Casey Concepcion wins at all 3 levels consistently, and he has a little after-the-catch juice that I like as well. And it does feel like he's sort of flown under the radar because there's been a lot of time talking about Jordan Tyson. Carnell Tate has come on of late, and he's having a fantastic season. I'm a Denzel Boston fan, a little higher on him than some other people. But Antonio Williams was my guy coming into the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's battled with injuries and inconsistent quarterback play. Casey Concepcion is certainly making his case to be, in my mind, a top 50 guy.
That's interesting. Anybody else from that game or any other games, Ryan, from the weekend that kind of jumped out at you? I know you mentioned Moore in that Oregon, last second win against Iowa. Ty Simpson had another nice game. Anything else jump out at you from the week of college football?
I'll mention this, and I do the podcast with the first pick with former Titans GM Rand Carthon, and he shot me this note this morning, and we were going back and forth on it, and I didn't realize it because I think Ty Simpson is playing out of his mind. He's playing at some pretty high level football, but ... his deep ball accuracy and completion percentage is among the worst when you look at the guys that are likely to come out or maybe the next few years come out. And I went and looked real quick. Incidentally, at the top of the list, balls 30 or more air yards down the field. Drew Aller's at the top. He's only 3 of 5, but I never would have guessed that. Jaden Maiaba's number 2, and I like Jaden. I think he's going to come back, but he does some things well, and we're not talking a lot about him. Carson Beck, Dante Moore at the top, Fernando Mendoza as well, but at the bottom, the very last 2 guys in terms of completion percentage down the field, Ty Simpson and Garrett Nussmeier. And again, these are guys that 10 or so quarterbacks that could come out, or we've talked about at some point as being interesting prospects in 26, maybe 27. So I went back and looked at those throws, and I would say 80% of them are off target. Ryan Williams has had a couple drops, and we know about that. But just something to monitor because first and second level throws, Ty Simpson is wearing out defenses, throwing with anticipation, playing on time, making good decisions with the football. But I do want to see what this looks like, 20-plus yards down the field. If this can get better over the next half of this season, if he comes back, what that looks like. Or if you draft him, what does that look like, and what's your plan in place to set him up for success? Because, again, Ty Simpson is one of the 3 best quarterbacks in this class as we sit here.
I think with Nussmeier, he doesn't have the arm strength to drive the ball downfield. I watched Simpson. I absolutely agree. To me, it could be more of a trajectory sort of situation. He seemed to put too much air under those deep passes, and then the receivers downfield are slowing up and waiting for the ball to arrive. It's not a situation where he can't make those passes. I think he's got to get that trajectory right. A lot of times it has to do with footwork and other things. But listen, we talk. Is he going to enter the draft? We've talked about this before. He's started 8 or 9 games in his college career. So obviously there's going to be things that need to be worked on, and that's one of them.
And apparently he already graduated before the season started, so he could really pretty much do whatever he wants, Simpson, in terms of deciding what he wants to do. It'll be interesting to track that once the season's over. Something tells me someone's going to open the checkbook at Alabama to try to get him to stay, and we'll see how that ends up going if he decides to stick or head to the pros. Draft season is presented by Moody's, a proud sponsor of the New York Giants. Decode risk, unlock opportunity. Learn more at Moody's.com. All right, guys, let's go to our defensive riders and sliders. Tony, I'll let you go through your list first. Then Ryan, you can either comment on his guys, you can add some of your own, and we'll go position by position group here. Tony, let's start with your interior defensive linemen. What do you got?
I mean, 3 guys that really weren't talked about before the season started. I guess that's what a riser is. Someone I've mentioned on the show before, Anthony Smith of Minnesota. You could maybe make it. He's a defensive end in Minnesota's 3-man line. 11 and a half tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 5 quarterback hurries. He's an athletic guy. He plays with good fundamentals. He's explosive. He's got a lot of upside. Oregon, Amari Washington. I mean, a guy who basically played behind Derek Harmon and Jamari Cardwell last year. Cardwell's having a great year with the Chargers. Has really taken to that first team well, just very explosive. God, it's tough to stop on the inside. Love his ability to beat opponents with the first step. He shows some strength in his game. And Caden McDonald of Ohio State, who we've mentioned on this game, a big interior guy who, like Washington, was a rotational guy that saw the field on occasion last year, playing behind first-round pick Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton, who was a late-round pick. 41 tackles and 7 tackles for loss for I don't want to say shorter, but a sort of a wide-body guy who shows the ability to change direction and make plays all over the field. I think he's really stepped it up. And Ohio State, that defensive line has not missed a beat, despite the fact that all 4 guys from last year's national championship team graduated to the NFL, and the 4 guys we see on the field now also look like NFL prospects.
Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah. It helps to have R.L. Reese decide to play like a future Hall of Famer. Sonny Sykes to find himself. And Caleb Downs is hanging out in the backfield as well, doing his thing. I'll start with Caden McDonald. He might be one of the best, if not the best, run defenders, interior defensive lineman in this draft class, given the way he plays. I think he has some room to grow as a pass rusher, but it depends on how you want to use him. But he has certainly been a revelation on the interior of that defensive line. Amari Washington was interesting. He is a true junior. He was a freshman in 2023. So the room for growth is almost unlimited with him, but the athleticism is so freakish that you have to sort of project a little bit what that's going to look like, because there are times where he looks not lost, but he's not as polished as Derek Harmon or Jamari Caldwell were last season, and that's to be expected. But athletically, he's probably better than both. Jamari Caldwell, if you put him in Derek Harmon's body, he's probably the first overall pick. I think we sleep on the fact that Jamari Caldwell looks like me, rolling out of bed or coming home. But he can get after it, as Tony mentioned, for the Chargers this year for sure. But I think Amari Washington, his best football is ahead of him, and it's going to be a situation where you're having that conversation in the draft room. So defensive line coach is going to say, if you want to see this dude, play with it, light himself on fire in terms of the way he plays, let me get my hands on him, because I do think he's such an untapped potential at this point, just because he's so relatively new to college football and that he's a true junior.
Any players not on Tony's list, Ryan, that have caught your attention this year that you think have really helped themselves throughout the season on the defensive tackle front?
I think Sonny Styles is I watched him over the summer, and he looked like a guy that had previously played safety. He looked like he was playing off ball, like he was playing through a straw. This year, he looks much more comfortable, much more free in terms of the way he's playing, much more loose coming downhill. And the only thing that's holding him back is that he's playing alongside R.L. Reese, who, when you compare them, it's probably unfair to Sonny, but Sonny is playing, in my mind, like a top 50, maybe higher than that, talent. Let me see what else I have. Just in
anyone on the defensive line?
Let's see what we got here. When you're old, you have to write this stuff down.
Trust me, I feel you.
I have a guy that Barry Alexander next to Amari has been a fun watch. I think he's gotten better this year. I hesitated because there's a guy that I was expecting a lot from, and I'll mention him in a second, who hasn't quite lived up to expectations along the defensive line. I think Peter Woods has been good for Clemson, but that team is just in such disarray that it sometimes unfairly perhaps, we like to ding these guys, even though they're not solely responsible for what's going on. But I'll get to my other guy in a second. Dominic Orange is a guy that's gotten a lot of pub. I like him. I don't love him. I don't know if I would take him on day 2 right now, but I know people like him perhaps in the first round when you look around the media landscape, but I'm not quite there yet.
All right, Tony,
I would agree with you. I mean, Dom Orange of Iowa State is the exact opposite of Zane Durant. Zane Durant is your one gap from Penn State, who we talked about before. He's your one gap, 3 technique tackle, where Dom Orange is basically your zero technique nose tackle. So he's not going to make a lot of plays, but he's going to occupy the guys on the inside and allow his teammates to make plays. 2 guys at the defensive tackle position who I think have slid down boards. You mentioned Peter Woods and the disappointment of Clemson. I'm going to go with his teammate, DeMonte Capehart. And this is really a 2-year slide, because coming into the 2024 season, Capehart, who is a big, powerful guy, was graded as a potential late day 2 pick. early fourth-round selection by NFL scouts, he was nowhere to be found last year. He made the right decision to come back and play another year at Clemson, and he's been slightly better. So you're talking about a guy in Capehart who, entering the 2024 season, a potential top 100 pick. Now you're looking at he's basically holding on to be a very late round selection. Team's going to like his size, like his power. You know, if he gets a real boot in the rear end, maybe he get to that point where scouts thought he should be. And, you know, you talked about Dom Orange getting some first-round love outside. I see a lot of people who love Kristen Miller of Georgia. I like Miller. He plays in spurts. I mean, we've seen this come out of Georgia before. You get those big interior guys who are so much bigger, so much more powerful than everyone else. And then they'll make one or two plays and they disappear for lengths at a time. And that's what I see from Miller. I think he should be a much better, much more productive player than he is.
Trying to remember, who was the nose tackle out of Georgia last year? The really big guy that came out.
Yeah.
He was a prospect. Yeah, he was a prospect for a couple of years. I forget his name, but he's one of those guys, I think, Tony, that you're kind of talking about there. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I agree on Miller in general. And sometimes, you know, we have conversations about is the quarterback a function of the offense? Mac Jones at Alabama with all those receivers. That's also the case with Georgia defenders every single year. You have to sort of figure out how much of that is teammates doing the heavy lifting or how much is that you doing your thing. And talking about guys that are, you know, not even built in the lab because they wouldn't fit in the lab and haven't quite met expectations. I was intrigued by Xavier Harris, the enormous Ole Miss defensive lineman. He's verified 6'7", 330. And the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, is this going to be a Deion Walker Kentucky situation or something completely different? And it turns out something completely different. Deion Walker has first-round talent. He had a back injury last year, and he's actually played pretty well in spurts for the Buffalo Bills as a day 3 pick. Xavier Harris, I don't know if it would be possible for him to play higher than he plays. At 6'7", 330, he could be ragdolling offensive linemen, and it's just he's not put it together yet, and I don't know if he will. But the measurables are so insane when you see him in the huddle standing next to the other guys who are 6'5" and making them look like they're, you know, school kids. But it just hasn't come together on the field for him. And again, it'll be a situation where I'm sure defensive line coaches thinks they can get the most out of him. I just don't know when you're this far down the road and you don't play with low pads if that can suddenly change. But man, he has some reps where you're like, okay, this guy can take over games. It's just you see it about once or twice a game instead of seeing it once or twice a series.
All right, Tony, let's Ryan already mentioned a couple inside linebackers. So why don't we go there next, and then we'll hit edge after that. So why don't we go to off-ball linebackers? You guys both have Sonny Styles on your risers list. Who else do you have in that mix?
Well, obviously, Alvarez Reese, who's really taking his game to the next level. I mean, we knew he was a good space linebacker, off-ball linebacker a year ago. The blitzing ability he's shown, the ability to rush the passer off the edge and create mayhem. I mean, he's displayed himself to be a complete 3-down linebacker in all facets of the position. It's going to be a very early pick. Looks like he's NFL ready. You know, not just the playmaking, not just the athleticism, but the smarts, the instincts. He plays disciplined football as well as productive football. Ryan talked about Sonny Styles. Listen, I'm gonna go out a cliff on this one until draft day or until somebody tells me otherwise. I still love Harold Perkins. I mean, 43 tackles, 4 pass defenses. I know he's a little bit undersized, but coming back from that injury last year, he looks like he hasn't missed a beat since his freshman season where he was all-world. He's great. He's explosive in any direction. He's great in pursuit. He can get depth on his pass drops. You know, he can rush the passer, although that may be a problem at the next level due to his size. He's going to have to do it on disguised blitzes on occasion. But, I mean, this guy, everybody loved this guy as a freshman. He got injured in 2024. It seems people have fallen off. I don't know why, because you watch the film and number 7's all over the place. Caleb Elam's-Orr, we talked about him with Mike Renner a couple of weeks ago. Here's a guy who came into the season with a free agent grade from NFL Scouts. He's playing lights out. 92 tackles with 3 games left this season. You're a pure off-ball linebacker. He's not a big guy. He's a pursuit linebacker who goes sideline to sideline, flies to the action, constantly around the ball, making positive plays. I mean, you're looking at a guy coming into the season, great as a free agent. He's probably now in the 4th, 5th round area. Could go even higher depending on how he works out. Daniel Wingate, a guy from Maryland, not a lot of people talk about. Again, another pursuit linebacker. He's a little bit bigger. He goes about 6'3", 230 pounds. He's fast moving in every direction, 83 tackles this season. And finally, Aiden Fisher of Indiana, struggling with a knee injury now, but if you saw last week against Penn State, he's still making a lot of plays. I mean, a guy who on 3rd and 5 can play in space, in coverage, can run down the ball handler and backside pursuit, and stacks well against the run on the shorter yardages. But Aiden Fisher of Indiana, I think, has really helped himself. He's gone from a potential late-round pick probably into the middle part of day 3, if not earlier.
It feels like we're coming around on these off-ball linebackers because they've been undervalued as day 2 picks historically. Last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. And it feels like if you get good players at good positions, it's okay to take them in the first round. Same thing with center to a degree. And this is sort of a layup, but I was excited to go back and watch him play, and he's playing better than he did last season. C.J. Allen, Georgia, he gets after it. He can do everything you want him to do. He can come downhill. He can play in space. He's not going to miss tackles. I think he has a chance to be a first-round pick. Jayshawn Barham out of Michigan, I absolutely love. He is a hair-on-fire guy as well. Played off ball. Now they move him to edge because they need him there. He's incredibly disruptive. He's not 6'5", 250, but he doesn't know that. He plays like he's 6'5", 265. I love the motor with which he plays. I did want to ask you guys something, talking about Arvell Reese and the versatility he brings, because he can play off the edge, he can play off ball, he can play in the slot if you want him to. Compare him, and I'm going to have this conversation with myself. I haven't answered myself yet. Him and Jalen Walker from last year do a lot of the similar things. I think I'm leaning towards Arvell as the better football player coming out. I don't know if I'm there yet.
Well, I think especially since Reese has the better body, right? I mean, he's just longer. He's broader. I think he can survive on the edge, Tony. And I'm sorry for jumping on you there, but I think he just has the physical traits that jump out more as an edge player than Walker, combined with just his ability as a football player, right?
He's bigger, he's taller, which means he's got more growth potential. I mean, Jalen Walker was what, 6'1.5"? Yeah. So he's got limited growth potential. He's not going to be able to put on a much weight and basically keep that speed and quickness, where I think Reese he's got the body to get bigger. I mean, I lean towards guys that show the ability to play in space and then develop their pass rush moves, because I think it's much easier to make plays moving forwards than in reverse. Walker did that to an extent last year. Reese has really done it to an extent, really taken it to a next level this year.
Well, Ryan, I want to throw the question back at you because Dane Brugler just released his top 50. He had Reese as his number 1 player. So I think the question would be, do you think the team will just convert him to a straight-up edge like Parsons eventually was? Remember, Parsons, the first part of that first year in Dallas, he actually played off-ball linebacker for them. He wasn't an edge player. They eventually moved him there when a couple guys got hurt. How do you think Reese is going to be drafted? As a linebacker that can do both? Or is the team just going to say, no, I like him as an edge player that's going to rush the passer. That's how I'm going to draft him.
I think he's going to be drafted as Travis Hunter, athlete, because what they do with Micah now is put Micah over the center and 3rd down. They just let him wreak havoc inside. So, I mean, you're not going to limit Arvell. And I think we did a mock draft last week, I think, on the show, and I think I had Arvell going 5th or 6th to the Titans or whatever they traded down at the moment. So that feels right to me, taking him that high because of the versatility, the growth he's made. He's still a young player, and I don't think you cap him on where you play him. You play him if he's best playing free safety, you put him in free safety and say get after it.
Tony, I don't know if he can play free safety, but I'm sure he can play strong safety and cover the tight ends and running backs over 20 yards downfield.
All right, Tony, who are some of your guys? And this is a short list because this is one of the few good off-ball linebacker drafts we've had in 10 years, I feel like. Not many guys on your sliders listed inside linebacker.
Yeah, it's going to be a recurring theme as it was last week when we talked on offense. Wayne Woodadz of Clemson. I mean, here's a guy who a year ago I absolutely loved him. 86 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 6 pass defenses, all over the field, making positive plays. He's not going to come close to those numbers this year. Like many of his teammates on Clemson on both sides of the ball, he's been very disappointing. He came into the season from scouts with late round grades. I liked him more. I liked him as a middle round choice, but scouts are going to be proven to be right because, I mean, he's not played like a middle round choice this year. He's played like the late rounder that they expected him to be.
I'll mention Jake Golday out of Cincy. I like him. I do have some concerns about his ability to change direction. He's a little stiff at times in space. It's not the end of the world. He's going to be a good player at the next level. He's an edge rusher who transferred to Cincy and is having a pretty good season, no doubt about it. But I do wonder if he's going to sneak his way into this top 50 conversation because he doesn't feel like a top 50 player to me. And going back to Tony's conversation about Harold Perkins Jr., I'm with you. I think the things that Harold Perkins Jr. are doing are somehow flying under the radar. LSU has other issues to contend with, but Harold Perkins Jr. isn't one of them, especially when you compare, like if you're asking me who am I taking, him or Golday, Perkins is smaller, but I know he can do more, and I feel much more comfortable with him in space. Golday's a great player. I just don't know if he's going to go as high as some people in the media might think.
I'm going to agree with you on Golladay because, there's some people who love him. And when I watch Cincinnati, he racks up all these tackles. There's no wow factor to his game.
Yeah.
He's very workmanlike. He's very disciplined, but it doesn't jump off the film. Arvell Reese is not a fair comparison, but even, Caleb Elam-Zor of TCU, you see him all over the place making plays. Golladay he's nice. There's no wow factor to his game as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Tony, let's go to the edge here. Who are your guys that we already mentioned Arvell Reese, so you don't have to mention him here, but who else has helped themselves on the edge? This is a rather long list.
Obviously, and as Ryan said, it's open, but there's a lot of players at this position. Ruben Bain, a lot of people think he's going to be a top 3 pick. The stats aren't great. I think he's helped by his teammate, Akeem Mesidor, who's also helped himself. But listen, 270 pounds, you see that athleticism, the speed up the field, the ability to change direction, get out in space, the ability to wreak havoc. He's going to be a very early pick. David Bailey of Texas Tech by way of Stanford. We talked about guys who are great making plays up the field. That's Bailey. 15 tackles for loss, 11 and a half sacks. He's been credited with 11 quarterback hurries. 6'3", 246 pounds, a junior timing day last year, but he plays big. He's not a guy that gets not whacked around by bigger offensive linemen. He will hold his ground against blocks, and it shows the ability to get off those blocks and make plays. He's also athletic. He's not just a guy that can make plays up the field. They use him that way because he's so effective in that realm. But if you watch the Stanford film, he can go sideline to sideline. He can drop into coverage, so he's more than just an edge rusher, although everyone's going to paint him as an edge rusher. We talked about Cassius Howell before, Josh Josephs of Tennessee. I don't know why I put him here as Oregon. Josh Josephs of Tennessee, 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. Another one of those undersized pass rushers that you can use occasionally coming out of a 3-point stance or standing over tackle. Kenyatta Jackson of Ohio State, yet another guy who I think is really stepping up. Someone who was used as a rotational player last year when they had Tua Maloa and they had Jack Sawyer. Showed flashes last year, starting to put it together as a consistent disruptor. Guy who can stop the run, who can also rush the passer, makes plays in every direction of the field. And then Quincy Rhodes of Arkansas, who gets no pub. A lot of things have gone wrong in Arkansas this year. Quincy Rhodes is one of the few things that has gone right. 37 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 8 sacks. He's more of your Ruben Bain, Anthony Smith of Minnesota type in the sense that he is a bigger, taller, athletic edge rusher who in time could be used in a 2-gap system as a defensive end, may even grow into that defensive tackle position, but he's shown a lot of ability at Arkansas this year.
And Ryan, this edge class is filled with bigger edges this year.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's like we went from average 255, 6'4", 255 to 6'6", 275 plus. I'm so glad you put Quincy Rhodes Jr. in this list. I am one of his biggest fans outside of his immediate family, I would imagine. I've had him go in the first round sometimes. I love the way this young man plays. He's unofficially 6'6", so we'll see, but 275 feels about real. And just the things he's able to do, most humans are incapable of doing. I think Ruben Bain Jr. has had a fantastic season, especially compared to last year. But I've talked to some folks that say his arms are going to be sub 31. And we'll find out together. But, I just don't know how you overcome that. But I say this, too, and I'm interested in what you guys think. We overthink a lot of things because we have so much time between September and late April. And sometimes guys are just good football players. Brian Branch, Kyle Hamilton, they all ran slow. Those are first-round talents. One went late in the first round, one went in the second round for reasons that defy comprehension. And I do wonder if we talk ourselves out of really good football players because historically it hasn't worked. And I get that part of it. But it's hard to argue with the way Ruben Bain Jr. is playing. To Tony's other point, how much of that is him dominating? And we see it a lot, one-on-one reps. And how much of that is counterpart, Akeem Mesidor, helping out on the other side to keep off the double teams. One other name I'll mention in terms of guys that I absolutely love, and I think I have a soft spot for undersized guys, David Bailey's buddy, Romello Height. He's 228 all day long. He does not know that, and he plays with so much juice. He's probably going to end up going on day 3 because of that. He's an older player as well. He's transferred a couple times. But my goodness, the motor with which that young man plays is inspirational at times. So I love watching those two guys come off the edge. And the Utah game was a great game because they went up against 2 tackles that are probably going to be first-round picks. It's got a true measure of what it looked like for both sides of the ball in that Utah-Texas Tech game.
All right, Tony, how about your guys that maybe have not lived up to expectations on the edge?
Well, let's go back to Clemson. I mean, T.J. Parker, 2 sacks this year. Coming into the season, I think most people thought that T.J. Parker was a potential top 20 pick, maybe a top 15 pick. He hasn't come close to playing it this year. I mean, he's getting washed at the point by average offensive tackles. Really has not had a good season, as that entire Clemson program has failed. I put Keldrick Falk of Auburn on this list only because if we had this discussion back in August, beginning of September. I looked at Keldrick Falk as a potential top 5, maybe even a top 3 pick. I thought he was that dominant. I thought he was that explosive. He's incredibly athletic. He's not played like it this year. And that's going to be a topic of conversation, in those combine interviews. Why didn't you play as well as everyone thought you should have played this year? I like Keldrick Falk. I just expected more from him this year. And then Danny Dennis Sutton of Penn State played well against Indiana, but he's got 3 sacks this year, does have 3 forced fumbles. I mean, here's a guy who 6'5", 270 pounds. He's probably going to run under 4.8 in the 40 in pre-draft testing. Came through last year when in the playoffs for Penn State when Abdul Carter hurt his shoulder. Dennis Sutton was tough to stop. I mean, he makes a sack, he's flexing, and it's like he stopped the entire world. Meanwhile, the team stinks. I just I expected, like Parker, like Keldrick Falk, I just expected so much more from Dennis Sutton this year, and he has not produced.
Tony's just more. The funny thing is, Tony's not angry; he's just disappointed.
Yeah,
I get angry, but
no, disappointment's worse though. I mean, your kids will tell you that. But I'm with you on Dennis Sutton. He would probably admit in his heart of hearts that he has not played as well as he has wanted to. And, you watch the guys over the summer and you have an idea of what you want that progress to look like.
Yep.
And sometimes the progress exceeds expectations in Narwhal Reese, and a lot of times it doesn't. And the Keldrick Falk thing is one that I had concerns about. He may be a situation where he doesn't reach max potential until four years from now. You just don't know because he hasn't played a ton of football. And I would throw, and I don't think this is a knock against Keldrick Falk or this next name. It's just that they're young. And while they're, baby Jesus blessed them with a lot of physical traits, they have yet to realize them. Mateo Uiagalelei out of Oregon is a guy who, sweet mercy alive, if you get him and Keldrick Falk off the bus first, you're sending the message to the other team. I would like to see it translate more consistently on the field, and I think it will. It just, if your expectations are in year one as rookies, they're going to dominate. You're setting yourself up to be disappointed. Another player that I didn't get last year, and I get less this year, and to the point that I'm beyond disappointed and frustrated. Patrick Payton at LSU, transferred from Florida State, and again, dude looks the part. I just don't know what the disconnect is between the whistle blowing to start the play and the whistle blowing to end the play, because it's just not there. And he went from a possible top 50 guy a summer ago to, is he going to get drafted? Is he going to have to be a special teamer to make a roster once he gets into the NFL?
He's another DeMonte Capehart. Like I mentioned, the defensive tackle from Clemson. It's been a 2-year fall for Peyton. And I agree with you. I mean, coming off of that 2023 season at Florida State, you're like, wow, watch this guy. It didn't produce in 2024. It was a disastrous season at Florida State. He transfers to LSU. You figure it's going to be a big year. I mean, he's more missed. He's hit and miss, and he's more missed than he is hit. So right on with a guy like that. And what's going to happen is, again, go to combine interviews. Scouts are going to say, what's going on, what's happening here, and that's why he'll fall deep into the draft. Could potentially be could potentially go and not get selected.
All right, Tony, let's get to the defensive backs. You put corners and safeties together here.
Yeah, a couple of guys that have really exceeded expectations. Mansour Delane, who we've talked about at length from LSU, the Virginia Tech transfer, 8 pass defenses and 1 interception this year, 8 pass breakups and 1 interception, has really turned it around. Showed a lot of ability as a sophomore at Virginia Tech in 2023. Struggled a bit last year, has elevated his game. Brandon Sissy of South Carolina. You come into the season, if you did your film work over the summer, you're looking at Jalen Kilgore and Judge Collier as the top corners at South Carolina. It's been Sissy who's played incredibly well this year. 5 pass breakups, 1 interception. He's a taller guy, may not hit that 6-foot mark, but he's still going to be about 5'11", excellent ball skills. And again, another guy that came out of nowhere. The talk was all about Jermod McCoy at Tennessee coming into the season, and he hasn't played because of an offseason injury. Colton Hood has stepped in and basically taken the spot and stolen the spotlight from him. Colton Hood, who's on his 3rd team, started at Auburn, went to Colorado, now has basically earned himself at Tennessee. He's playing like a day 2 selection. I happen to like Jamel Johnson, the safety out of TCU, 69 tackles, but also 4 interceptions. He's not just a downhill run defending safety. He shows this terrific ball skills. Genesis Smith, who we talked about when Mike Renner was on the show, 53 tackles, 1 interception, 7 pass breakups. Again, true free safety that can go sideline to sideline and make plays when the ball is when the football's in the ball carrier's hands or it's in the air. And D'Angelo Pounds of Indiana, who again had a good game against Penn State. He's a smaller guy, going to be a nickel or a dime back on Sunday. But man, he can play. He can play up at the line of scrimmage. He can play in zone. He can play backed off the football. And a guy just seems to get better and better and better that no one talks about.
Yeah, it's funny. I've seen all these guys except CC, and they are all risers for me. This safety class, we usually talk about Caleb Downs. This safety class can be pretty deep. I think there'll be a lot of guys that go on day 2, maybe early day 3, that have a chance to contribute right away. Another name I'll mention at safety, and AJ Halsey out of LSU. For as bad as LSU is, they do have some dudes. And he's done a lot for himself this season, I feel, in terms of helping his draft stock. I mentioned Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State. And 2 other names I'll mention. D'Angelo Ponds is one of my favorite players. Someone else in that mold is Duke's Chandler Rivers, who I liked a lot over the summer. He's a verified 5'8" and change. So, again, his future is going to be in the slot as well. Even though he and D'Angelo play a lot outside, they're going to have to play inside. But I think they have the physicality, the ability to tackle in space, and surprising ball skills for that height to be competitive at the next level. And one other name I'll mention, and this dude has been so much fun to watch. Chris Johnson, the cornerback out of San Diego State. He's 6 feet, but he's about 180. He plays bigger than that. He will tackle and come up and run support, and he is a wrap-up tackler. He is legit in terms of staying in phase on downfield vertical routes, getting himself in position for PBUs and turnover opportunities. And he does it in an era where, college football, you can basically tackle people and they won't throw a flag. He is playing the type of defensive football that will not get you flagged to the next level, which is an easier transition. And I say that as a Steelers fan who has to watch Joey Porter Jr. every week make 15 tackles down the field to keep drives alive for the offense.
And the thing about Johnson, especially when you get those DBs out of the Mountain West who have huge stats, they're opportunistic players. Johnson's got excellent ball skills. Yeah. I mean, he creates his own opportunities as opposed to making plays because the opposing quarterback just made a bad throw.
All right, how about your sliders in the defensive backfield, Tony?
Ryan talked about one of them earlier, A.J. Harris, the cornerback from Penn State. When I watched him over the summer, like, wow, this guy is big, he's explosive, he's strong, and he's getting beaten like a drum this year. I mean, he can't make plays with his back to the ball. I'm starting to wonder, is he going to be a cornerback or is he going to be a safety? Has been a major disappointment for me. And Damani Jackson of Alabama, coming into the season, scouts graded him anywhere from a second-round pick to the later rounds. I mean, he's been 2 years ago. You watched him and you're like, wow, this guy could be the next big time corner to come out of Alabama. He may end up going undrafted because he's been so streaky and so inconsistent.
I agree about Damani, and I watched him over the summer, and I wanted to see a little bit more, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. A couple of names I'll mention. Christian Gray out of Notre Dame. I had high hopes for him this season, and playing alongside Leonard Moore doesn't help if Leonard Moore is going to play at the level he's playing at. And I don't know if he's injured, and sometimes we don't know, especially in college. But he hasn't quite lived up to the expectations. And a guy that played like his life depended on in week one in that win over Alabama for Florida State. Earl Little Jr., the safety, is a firecracker, human missile coming downhill. But I went back and watched the rest of his couple more games a couple days ago. He's a little stiff in space. He's better closer to the line of scrimmage, and this is no knock on him. He is what he is. But given the way he played in that week one game, I thought he had an opportunity to make some moves. I think now he's probably going to be locked in as a day 3 guy. Again, that's okay. But if he had played the rest of the season like he played in the Alabama game, he'd have been the first overall pick, because that was some of the craziest football I'd ever seen.
All right, guys, we got about 8 minutes to go. Let's take a look at this week in college football. Tony, a couple matchups in some of these games you're really excited about. Clemson and Louisville, a big wide receiver cornerback one-on-one.
Yeah, Louisville, very important game for them in the ACC standings. Clemson, we've talked about Avion Terrell, who hasn't been bad. I don't think he's failed expectations like TJ Parker and some of the other players on Clemson. He's solid going up against Chris Bell. I mean, Chris Bell is playing lights out this year. We've talked about him a couple of times on this podcast. He's a definite day 2 pick. I don't know that he's going to be a first rounder. 6'1", 220 pounds. He's fast. He's explosive. And just makes catch after catch after catch. He was good in 2024. He's been better this season. He's got a size advantage over Terrell, who plays tough football. That is going to be a matchup to watch, a definite next level matchup between Clemson and Louisville.
I'll say this about Chris Bell. I may be the only person that's not high on him. I wasn't high on Rashee Rice coming out either, and I've since been proven wrong. I don't know about his long speed, and I know he catches a lot of balls near the line of scrimmage and strides out. I understand that. I want to see this matchup in particular, see how it unfolds, because hopefully that'll clue me into the direction I need to go. But I'm on an island on this one. We'll see what happens. Another name, a guy that I actually just watched, and he was a lot of fun. Clev Lubin, number 50, the edge rusher for Louisville. This guy can set the edge in the run. He is incredibly active as a pass rusher. Blake Miller, the right tackle out of Clemson. I was very happy he went back to school last year. I haven't watched him closely this year, but that's a matchup I can keep my eye on as we get through this game here. But Chris Bell, I don't know what it is, but whatever the blind spot is, hopefully I can see.
Ryan, I'm kind of with you. Like, there's nothing. He's not sudden in the way he runs his routes. I know he's raw in that regard a little bit. I know he does a lot of acceleration once he has the ball in his hands. But I'm with you. I'm not totally sold on that one.
All right,
we'll
see.
We'll see. Both of us could end up being wrong. I kind of thought the same thing about AJ Brown too, and had that one work out. Tony, another matchup: Minnesota and Oregon. We talked about Anthony Smith already, but he's going up against a guard that you really like. Maybe he's going to be a tackle too, Isaiah World.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be a guard. I think he's going to be a left tackle until proven otherwise. I mean, Isaiah World has been playing basically all world football. We saw it early in the year against Penn State. He's got those long arms. Transfer from Nevada has elevated his game. Really seamless in the step up to competition into the Big Ten. Showed a lot of outstanding traits. Very athletic as well. Not a guy who's just a line of scrimmage type of offensive tackle. Can get out to the second level and block in motion. Loves the way he uses his hands. Like I said, he's got those long arms. He's going to be up against Minnesota. Now, Minnesota plays a 3-man line, so we'll have to wait and see if that matchup basically comes to fruition where he's lined up over Isaiah World. But if he does, it's going to be a terrific matchup between two guys that are absolutely right now day 2 picks next April.
I'm going to go with Isaiah World's buddy, left guard Emmanuel Pregnone, transferred from USC. Yep. And he sends a message from the left guard position. He is incredibly effective as a run blocker. He was listed at 320 this summer. He combo blocks and gets to the second level like he weighs 185 pounds. He's elite pass protector on the interior. He does very few things that give you pause. I love the way he plays, and that left side of the line is solidified with both him and Isaiah Worlds there. And I've enjoyed watching him play. See what happens with Dante Moore. I'm curious to see if he comes back to school, because that's been a talking point as well. He's not been asked to do as much as Mendoza or Ty Simpson from game in to game out. When he has been, for the most part, he's been good, but I want to continue to see him to progress. So just to have a fuller picture of who he's going to be once he decides to make his way to the NFL.
All right, Tony, let's jump over to Oklahoma and Alabama, big SEC matchup.
Obviously, you're going to watch Ty Simpson every week, and this is going to be another big battle, not only for Ty Simpson, but Caden Proctor, the left tackle as well, who a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of mixed reactions and opinions on Caden Proctor. I happen to like him. A lot of people don't like him. I think he's better off on the right side. Some people think he's going to be an offensive guard. But they go up against Oklahoma, who's got the number 2 defense in the SEC. They're number 2 in the sacks, number 2 in sacks in the SEC. So this is going to be a big test, not only for Proctor, can he kind of slow down that Sooner pass rush, but Ty Simpson as well. If Proctor can't slow down that pass rush, or they're coming off the right side, how does he react to that pressure from that Oklahoma defense that's proven themselves to be really good this season?
Yeah, totally agree. And I'm with you on Proctor. I think he's a really good football player. I want him. I think the weight is going to be a concern for NFL teams, in much the same way it was with DeJuan Jones. DeJuan Jones probably should have been a top 50 pick, but refused to get weighted his pro day, and here we are. The other thing is he weighs 20 pounds more than J.C. Latham, which doesn't seem like that should be possible. Drop 15 to 20 pounds, take it seriously, and you can dominate, because we've seen him athletically. There are a few people better athletes on planet Earth. We've seen him in space, which is a crazy thing to say about an offensive tackle. As a receiver and as running back and a blocker, you can do all those things. So there's that. The other player in that offense that's really, really good, I don't know if you guys have talked about him frequently, but I need to talk more about him. Parker Brailsford, the center. He is quote-unquote undersized, but he plays incredibly strong for his 290-ish frame, whatever it happens to be. Jeremy Bernard is another really good player at wide receiver that probably deserves more pub. I think John Mateer, post-thumb injury, should come back. But, man, is he exciting. In talking to scouts over the summer, you talk to them and they've started jaded because they've done this forever. I've never heard so much excitement about a player as I had about John Mateer and what that was going to look like at Oklahoma. And they got off to a rollicking start before the injury. But that also informs you that he has to play smarter, and he can't sort of play that freewheeling style at the next level, because you end up like Jackson Dart to some degree. It can be fun, but it can also lead to you being on the sidelines. But this is going to be a fun game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Guys, this was fun. Ryan, really appreciate you joining us. Tell the folks where they can find your podcast, all your work, and everything like that.
Yeah, with The First Pick, wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, of course. And I do it with former Titans GM Rand Carthon, so he has a lot of insights and that I don't have, and it makes the show even better. So check that out if you don't mind. And
Tony, anything coming out that people should keep an eye on?
Bill, a free agent. Well, hopefully we'll have some word maybe in a couple days.
I'm sure that the agent is burning up the phone lines right now for Tony. Everybody, thanks for being with us here on Draft Season. It was brought to you by Moody's, a proud sponsor of the New York Football Giants, uniting the brightest minds to turn today's risk into tomorrow's opportunities. Learn more at Moody's.com. For Ryan, for Tony, really fun show today. Thanks for being with us, everybody. We'll see you next time.